Hello everyone, and welcome back into this tutorial series where we try to explain the FitMultiCell pipeline. In this fifth part, we will try to explain the visualization server, which is a part of the FitMultiCell pipeline. This server is intended to provide a simple and easy to use user interface that allow the user to upload the fitting output, which is a database with the extension of .db. This database could be uploaded into this user interface, and then the user would be able to get some information about the database, and also would be able to plot one of many plots that is available by this tool, and this plot would help to assess and diagnose the quality of the fitting process. In order to use this visualization server, you need to install the PyEBC tool, but if you already installed the FitMultiCell package, then PyEBC would be installed already in your machine. There are some documentation regarding this server that is available in the PyEBC tool, so just you need to go into PyEBC and then go to the documentation section, and then you will find a specific document that only talk about this visualization server, where we try to explain the different aspects of the server and how it could be utilized. However, in this video today, we will try to cover all of this information, so just stay tuned. In order to launch the server, as we can read here from this documentation, we need to run the command abc server dash. So what we will do is to copy this command here and then go to the terminal, and then we will put the command and we would be able to run the server. But before running the server, let's see what are the options that we could use with this command. If we click on if we add help into this command, we will see that we have some options. For example, we can run the server with a debugging mode. We can also select a specific port and host. However, if we didn't select any port and host, then the default ones would be used. The default port would be 8050 and the default host would be localhost. So now let's run the command again without specifying any port and host and any options, and then here we will get the default one. So after running it, we will see that the server is now up and running, and we could access the server by clicking into this specific link. So what we will do is to copy this link and go to the browser of interest or the browser of choice, and then we will put the link here, and then we would click on enter. As you can see, once we enter the link, now the server is up and running, and then it's ready to be used by the user. As you can see, the left section from the this user interface is providing you with a text box where you need to enter the path into your database. This path could be an absolute path or could be a relative path. So we already have prepared some database that we want to use. As you can see, this is the database. What we will do is to copy the path of this database, and we will put it here in this text box, and then we will copy the database name and we will put it here. But you can also use, as we said, the relative path. Then once we put the path, we will click on load, and as you can see, the page has been refreshed, and then there is a new component on the page. Let's talk about the new components that has been shown, and let's start talking about the left side, which is on the dark gray, this area here. As you can see in the above section here, there is a notification message that says okay, your database has been loaded successfully. However, if there is an issue with your database, if it is a corrupted file, or if there is a problem with your specific fitting run, then you will get a specific error message that tells you specifically the issue that related to your database. So we will close this notification message, and we will talk now about this section here, which contains some metadata related to your database. For example, the name of your database, the number of runs in your database. In our case, we have only one run, in this selected database, but if you have many runs, then you will see here the number of runs in your database, also the last modification of your database and the size of your database. And just to mention that if you have a large database, then the loading process might be a little bit longer, but it will not exceed few seconds. And then here finally in this lower section, you will get a drop down list showing all the runs in your database. But since our database only contain one run, then we will only have one run in this drop down list. However, if you have many and select another run, then this information of the other run will be shown here. And now let's talk about the right hand sections, which contain some information about the selected run. The upper section show you some runs details, such as, for example, general information that describe the starting and ending time of your run, the run's ID, the number of parameters on that specific runs. In our case, there is 14 parameter, and also some information about the distance function in the next box. On the third box, it shows you some information about the population strategies, such as its names and the number of particles and so on. And on the final box, some information about the epsilon function, such as the name of that epsilon functions, the initial epsilon, and so on. And then we have the lower section, which show you different plotting routines as a tab. If you select on any of these tabs, the plot will be shown to you. And then there is a section or a box called plot configurations that allow you to configure specific details about the plot, and this box would be updated based on the plot that you will select. As you can see, there are many tabs and many plots that you can produce, such as the probability density function, the number of samples, number of particles, the epsilon, the credible interval, and the effective sample size. Let's start by seeing the probability density function. If we would click on the tab, as you can see, the plot would be generated. There is a drop down list that allows you to select the specific parameter that you want to see. We have here all the 14 parameters. However, you can select a different parameter. By default, it will select the first one, which is parameter km1, and as you can see, this is the probability density function of that selected parameter. In the plot configurations, we can change the x limit of this plot. For example, now it's from -4 into -2. We can, for example, change -2 to be 0, and then we can adjust this slider here to increase this x limit or decrease it based on our need. What we can do is also, for example, select another parameter. Let's say also we want to see parameter k10 along with the parameter km1, and then what we will have is a kernel density function that is in 2D. In the x-axis we have the parameter km1, and in the y-axis we have the parameter k10. Also, we can do something similar. We can change the limits of the x-axis, and we can adjust the interval of the plot by sliding this slider below. Also, we could add another parameter, and then we will have is to have a matrix that show you the different parameters that you have selected. For example, in our case, parameter km1, k10, and k1, and then you would see the 2D plots and the 1D plot for these kernel density functions. And then you can add up until as you want of number of parameters into this plot. And once you reach to a specific plot that you want to save, just right click on the figure and then save image as, and then it will be saved in your machine. Also, we could plot the required sample per generations, and as you can see here we have a plot. Again, we can save the plot, and also we can print the number of particles per population index. We can generate the epsilon plot also, where we have the epsilon value across different population index. What we can change in this figure is the y scale. For example, we can select a linear scale, we can select a log scale, and so on. Also, we could plot the credible interval. If we click on that tab, again we will have a drop down list that show you all of your parameters. You can select any of your parameters. By default, the first parameter is being selected. Here you can see the in the plot configuration, what we can change is the confidence level. For example, now it's between 50 and 95, but what we can do is to change that, for example, into 0.40, and then let's say until 0.80, so your plot would be adjusted. Also, you could show and hide the mean and show and hide the KDE max. For example, if we add the KDE max, you could see in the figure, it's being added. We can remove, for example, the mean, and the figure will be updated accordingly. And finally, we could plot the effective sample size per population index, and again you could always save the plot that you want by just right click on the plot. What also you could do in all of these plots is to copy the code that has been used to generate this figure by clicking into this icon here, and then the code would be in your clipboard. You can put it on any where you want to reproduce the plot and adjust it more. And with that, I think we reached to the end of this tutorial. We hope that we have explained and covered all the aspects of this visualization server, and thanks you for listening, and thanks for you for listening, and hopefully see you in the next part of this tutorial series. Bye.